Well, welcome to this episode of the pioneering years, where we're beginning to go around the old rugby league areas and find the women and the male allies who were very involved in the initial startup of Women's Rugby League. And it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Vicky Brooks, who was very involved and is still very involved at Sheffield and one of our pioneers from the South Yorkshire area. Welcome, Vicky.
Thank you.
So tell us a bit. So just really interested. So Sheffield's often seen, isn't it, of a non-traditional area, and a lot of people won't actually know that in the 1990s, women's rugby league was strong and was growing, and actually had quite a few internationals. Tell us a bit about how you got involved and those early years.
So, really, what happened was I was my dad and my granddad were big Eagles fans and watching the Eagles down at Owlerton Stadium. And I was a bit of a tom girl at the time, well, my dad basically said, "Do you fancy coming along and having a look?" And I stood on the terraces a couple of times, and I was a bit bored, to be honest, and thought, I don't reckon much to this. But um, after a few times of going, my dad used to work with Tracy Solomon in very early teaching days. I think she did a teaching practice or something at my dad's school, and they bumped into each other. And Tracy Solomon was all up for recruiting more women to the game. And at that time, I think I was about 10 or 11 years old. And she said, "Why don't you come down and give it a go?" So I did, and it all started from there.
Oh wow! So 10 or 11. So were you actually playing in the women's team then that young?
Yeah, there were no such thing as
Wow.
girls rugby back then. So
Yes.
I basically got re- got recruited, and then I think I found myself in a curtain raiser at the Eagles. I think they were playing away or something, and I was playing before an Eagles match or something. Before I knew it, like a week later or something. So
Wow, I
um,
didn't realize you were so young. 10 or 11 is
yeah,
very young, isn't it, to be playing
yeah,
open age rugby league?
yeah. It is pretty young, and I think when the girls teams eventually did come along, um, it was quite good that I'd obviously been there and done that and got the T-shirt kind of thing, and I was able to help them a lot and be around to play in the girls rugby as well. So
Yeah. So
yeah,
can you remember much about those early days then of playing and
I remember when I first started, we had a team full of teachers, and because my dad obviously had worked with Tracy and knew her quite well, I think he Um, kind of thought that she was quite a respectable, lovely lady to be around. So I did anything, anywhere they all went, including pubs and nightclubs. I tended to get sneaked in. I think I was in the lead mill in Sheffield when I was about 12 year old. So, but because they were all like lovely people, it just worked. And I mean, back in those days, nobody really minded people being sneaked into nightclubs so much. It wouldn't be such a thing, would it? So
Mm.
I was always quite a big girl for my age, so nobody really batted an eyelid, and I had some great times partying away in Blackpool and places. I remember one year in Blackpool, I must have been. I think it was the first time I went with the team, and we ended up playing touch rugby at 2 o'clock in the morning on Blackpool Beach, and this crazy Scottish man came and just tackled me out of the blue. I was just covered in sand. I remember that quite well. Yeah,
Yeah, a
it was.
lot of the women talk about the Blackpool days, and there was they used to take the presentation, didn't they? The annual presentation for all of the women's teams to Blackpool every year.
Yeah, yeah. It was
Uh,
all always a real good fun getting together with all the different teams and things, and everybody always ended up in certain nightclubs together, and yeah, it was really good times. I remember it
so a
really
great
well.
social setting, particularly as a youngster.
Oh yes, and then obviously you'd all go and do the pleasure beach as well on the day after, or or what have you, and have a good team building together.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
real good fun.
There's lots of good memories about Blackpool. So can you remember much? So you can remember the social side, Vicky. Can you
Hmm.
remember much of the playing and who you played? And is there anything that sort of stands out in your mind?
I think I think in the early days, um, I remember all the women really being quite good at Sheffield. We didn't win that many matches, but we had like Tracy Hughes who was super fast, and Sue Jackson. I think when I first came along, she was oh, already been scouted for Yorkshire, and she was a cracking player. Tracy Solomon was just so good at organising everything. Teresa, who went on to have a really good career in teaching. Sue Fowle. I can remember all the old team, but I think probably the memories that stand out from the early days were getting on a minibus and Tracy Solomon driving us down to Fulham and places like that. And me being sat with all these um, older players on this bus, and I'm quite timid and shy at that point. But yeah, it was all good memories and just great to be involved. It was good. And I just I mean I can't imagine how my life would have shaped out without rugby league in it really. So
Yeah, well, you're still involved now, aren't you? All these years later, so
I am.
it had a real impact. We'll talk about a bit about that later on. So you were traveling as far as Fulham, and I'm presuming you did the Cumbrian trips as well,
Yep.
and as a South Yorkshire team, you weren't the most successful, but you did have quite a lot of success locally, didn't you, in growing the game and getting more women and girls playing.
Yeah, we did. I remember after a couple of seasons of being there, I don't know what year it was, but we ended up winning the second division championship. We recruited three really good players from the university, um, uh, Sean, Sylvia, and Lisa, and they played quite a big role in that success for us. And then because they were at university, they kind of went separate ways, and we didn't kind of see much of them. But then obviously we were thrown into playing the more difficult teams, and we were getting beaten by about 80 points to nil from Wakefield and things, and like playing against Lisa Mack and things when I was so young, it was
Gosh,
um,
yeah.
yeah, quite scary, but then also a great experience, and obviously um, some great memories there to look back on, really.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Played against some greats, didn't you, as well?
oh yeah, definitely.
And actually, you were a very talented player, I hear as well. Don't hide your
And
light under a
I,
bushel.
I was, I think I'm probably respected by quite a lot of my old teammates as being a good player, but I've always been quite yeah, modest in myself, and yeah, I think I've had some good years, and I think what went in my favour was I was pretty good at reading a game, and being able to put the likes of Becky and people um, through gaps, um, and when you've got like Emma Slow and people playing off you, and being a good role model for her coming through and things like that. Um, yeah, it's always been been a good thing. I've always tried my best as well. I've always been quite a committed player and given 100%. I'm very competitive as well, which I think helps. So yeah,
Yeah, it does. And we were discussing yesterday. So I was at an event yesterday with you that was celebrating not just the men, but also the women's heritage at Sheffield Eagles. And we were talking around you were a six, and obviously at that time there was sixes in Brenda and other players, and you felt as though you just couldn't compete with them, which is really interesting, isn't it? Around your confidence to be able to then maybe play another. We were talking about, well, you could have played another position, weren't we?
yeah. I think I did go on and actually and played at Wakefield with Brenda, and I played 13. That was um, a long way down the line, but yeah, when I first started, I played all over the place really, but I think when I felt like I was at my best, I was playing six, um, and and yeah, I always looked up to Brenda. I remember one time when we did play Wakefield, we actually scored first, and I kind of dummied and ran through, and it was like we'd won the cup because we'd actually gone in front against Wakefield, and I don't think it had ever happened before. We were celebrating a bit too much, and I think we probably went on to lose like 80 points to six or something. But Brenda Dobek was definitely, you know, one of the ones that I looked up to, big time. She was just an amazing player, and I always, admired how good she was and how long she played for as well. She was definitely,
Absolutely.
definitely the best. Yeah.
So how many years did you play? Let's say because you're on to playing wheelchair rugby now, which I will really want to come on to. So tell us how many years did you actually play then, and when did you decide to give it up?
The the running game probably I started in 1989, and then I went I I left to go to New Zealand actually in 97, 98, and I think that around that time I was probably um, in a position where I was at my best. And then I played for Manukau for a couple of games, well, probably more than a couple of games in New Zealand. Um, and I was thinking about staying for the women's tour because at that point Becky was in the team and she was like, oh, why don't you stay on a bit longer? But my visa was about to expire, so I had to come home, and I had a place at Stafford's University at that point. So when I came back, because a lot of the old players like Kath Demengel and Sue Cochran and people had gone to play for Red Hill, Becky had gone to Wakefield. I kind of thought, oh, I'll go and play rugby union at university. So I went to Stafford University, played one game of rugby union, and got ball twice, and thought this game's not for me. So I spoke to Kat. At that point, Becky was saying, "Oh, come to Wakefield," and I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And anyway, I went to a Red Hill training session and loved it. And I think the thing in the back of my mind is I've always wanted to beat Wakefield. It never happened, but because I was so competitive, I didn't want to play for
Mm.
Wakefield. I wanted to be able to beat them. And I think when I went to Red Hill, when was that? I wrote some rough ideas down. I think um, it must have been 1998 ish. There was Heather and Paula and people who were there who came across from Lancashire, and I was just made to feel so welcome at Red Hill that year. And I think I probably played my best rugby for them in that season. And then they then all folded because a lot of the players were getting older and they didn't want to play anymore. And then I went off to play for Wakefield, and that didn't work out. I got a really bad rib injury, um, and I just thought I think Sheffield was struggling, and I went back to play for Sheffield, and I think I was trying to work out when Sheffield stopped, and I think it was around um, 2005 or something like that. Um, and I think that's when Sheffield again got a lot of older players that had kind of had enough, and around 2005 I think it stopped. Um, yeah,
Yeah, this project will begin to uncover those exact dates because I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? So you started so young in '89.
yeah.
So, and then you went to New Zealand. Tell us that was really early to go to New Zealand and play, and you must have been young going there. And what was that like? Tell us a bit more about your experience in New Zealand and playing in New Zealand.
I had a boyfriend at the time, who was he was here playing at Hillsborough Hawks, and because he ended up not having anywhere to live, and he lived with my family. So he said, "Well, why don't you come have a year out and come and experience New
Mm,
Zealand for a year?" So I thought,
mm.
well, what a great opportunity. And I went out there and I played touch rugby as well because touch rugby was really big in New Zealand, and I played for Sherkham Tigers at this team, and loved that. And then I played for Manukau, and I think I I really enjoyed it. Initially, it was like a new club that was set up, and I think they some of the players thought I was a decent player, and I think in the first match I don't I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that when they first set up Manukau, I think I might have scored the first try. It was like into the pitch, which really wasn't really something that I'd normally do because I was quite a slow player. But I'm pretty sure I scored the first try and won the match for him. I think we won like 4-0 or something. Or it was a bit crazy. It was one of those really low scoring games, but the experience of playing in New Zealand was fantastic as well, and I'm glad I got to do that.
And that was really early doors in Women's New Zealand Rugby League because it wasn't till sort of the early 90s, from what I can tell. I mean, we're still uncovering the history that they really began playing Women's Rugby League. So that was fabulous. You know, you're a pioneer here and a pioneer there. I love it.
Yeah. I think that was 97, 98 that I went there. So.
Yeah, fabulous. So you gave up playing, so through injury. Then how did you stay involved in the sport? Because you have been involved, haven't you? And you've continued your involvement.
I think I kind of in 2005 I kind of wanted to look at having a family and things change in your life, don't they? Priorities and
Mm.
things. And I still was an Eagles fan. I've always been an Eagles fan. Always loved Sheffield Eagles. I actually missed out on their greatest moment in history because I was in New Zealand, which
Oh no.
I was so gutted about. But I remember the moment I woke up there and looked on the. It was teletext in them days. I looked at the score and I was like, that can't be true. And I rang up my parents and they were all partying the night away. It was like unbelievable that the score against Wigan at Wembley. But yeah, um, and I've forgotten where my train of thought now.
I'm just saying about when you'd finished playing and where
Yeah,
you went next.
and I just basically I was still in touch with the Eagles and things, and then Andrea came along to the Eagles as development officer, and obviously I've watched Andrea play and rated her, and I was friends with her already, and she at the point where at that point I'd had children, and Will has got a lower limb disability, and she'd started up the wheelchair team along with Dave Butler at the Eagles, and she kept badgering me to come down. And Will Will can be quite difficult sometimes, and I was a bit sceptical at first as to whether he'd get on with it. In the end, I gave in and went down. In April, my daughter came as well, and um, we all kind of started playing wheelchair rugby, and we've done it ever since. So it's been honestly, I can't tell you how much it's transformed our lives. It's just a fantastic sport, and we all love it so much. Um, it's it's been brilliant for our family, and the fact that Will can compete on an even keel with everybody else, it's just amazing. And me having a dodgy knee and things, it's still I'm still able to play the sport that I love. And I would definitely encourage any ex players or anybody that's looking to have a new path in rugby league to give it a go. I know they've started a new team up in Castleford and places, and it's a game changer. It's really good, and we do all and enjoy it and love it.
Yeah, and you play as a family, don't you?
We
So
do.
on
We
the
do.
same team. So how fabulous is that?
I know. Yeah. I mean, some games I have to pinch myself. Like we actually, I won't. I will. I will. We will. I will say we were playing OKR actually, Julia, and we've uh, Greg, our coach, put myself, April, and Will on together, and sometimes the mix doesn't always work playing with your mum. But on that particular occasion, we were scoring tries left, right, and centre, and it was an unbelievable feeling to be playing alongside your kids. And I don't think there's any other sport that you could probably do that. It
Oh
was
wow.
yeah, I sometimes do have to pinch myself and think, actually, I've just got to enjoy these days because, it's not going to last forever. But the kids, I'm sure, well, I will hope will go on and have a great future in wheelchair rugby. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, it's brilliant to be involved in.
Oh, that's really quite emotional, isn't it? And goosebumpy when you think that
It,
you starting, and it was in the pioneering years, 89. So I think we found some activity in leagues in Cumbria in 81 to 83, but actually the Women's League didn't set up formally until 85, 86. So, you were there in the initial days playing as an 11 and 12-year-old. And here you are playing, and we're not going to say your age, playing rugby league in wheelchair rugby league, which is just phenomenal, isn't it? Over your
yeah,
life path and what the sport can offer, however, whatever your age.
that's it. And I think rugby league. I don't know any other sport like it, but now you can play no matter who you are. We've got walking. Andrea set walking rugby up in Sheffield, and there's a version of rugby league for everybody now, and I think that's absolutely marvelous for the sport, and hopefully it'll just keep on growing.
Yeah.
Wilma's son plays PDRL as well, and um, like I said, there's the LD team, and it's great. It's fantastic that everybody can be involved.
And when you look back sort of what you've done in rugby league, what's your proudest moment, do you think? Or have you got a
Um,
few?
I think winning trophies at Blackpool, players player and things like that is has got to be up there. I think playing for Yorkshire, at the time Yorkshire under 17s as well, and um,
Oh, so you were
um,
in that under 17s Yorkshire team
yeah,
in
yeah.
91, wasn't it?
I'm
Yeah,
rubbish
yeah,
with the years, but yeah, I played at some point for the under 17s with Chantel, Patrick, and Mandy Green and people. Yeah, I
yeah.
remember that. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
uh, but yeah, I think playing now wheelchair rugby with my kids, is a pretty special thing as well. To be happening and getting to cup finals with Sheffield. There's so many great memories. It's 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 just been fantastic to be involved in it, and I just think rugby league's such a great sport, isn't it? And
It is.
women playing back then, it's fantastic that we could do that.
Yeah,
It's such a
absolutely.
big part of my life.
Yeah, so you would have been, so that under 17s. Then did you play in the women's Yorkshire team as well?
Yeah, I think I did a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So pretty phenomenal career, really, isn't it? And there's hopefully on the verge, there's some women's wheelchair rugby league going to begin, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, they're trying to do like a futures thing. I think I don't know if that's the right name for it, but they're trying to organise an England women's futures um, game before the men's test match in October. So that's quite exciting. Maybe I'm kind of hoping that maybe I could be involved, but I'm not sure whether I will be. But I think my daughter's April's got good potential to be in that team or in the youth team. Will as well. He absolutely loves it, and he's going to be hopefully develop into a great player. So yeah, it's all very positive in the Brooks house. So
And the lovely thing is you've got lots of memorabilia in your loft that you're going to share with us, aren't you? I'm going to publicly, openly say that so that I get it.
Yeah, I've got quite a few trophies and things, and I think you've already seen some of the cracking videos
Oh, I have.
that have come out. So yeah,
Oh, Vicky, you are, and you undersell yourself because there's so many people, and it wasn't easy for women at those times. And you were so young coming into it. I imagine there was a naivety of coming into it that you could be anything. And it's so important that women like you that have grown from being a child playing rugby and still involved all these years later, when it was the 40th anniversary, wasn't it, of Sheffield Eagles? Well, you're nearly on that yourself, aren't you, with the amount of time that you've played rugby league. It's been an absolute pleasure, and the fact that your whole family and you are playing together, and just thank you for your involvement, and thank you for keeping that torch lit for rugby league, particularly in South Yorkshire, with you and yours, and for so many more people, because you're getting very involved in sort of these reunions and capturing all those players and people that used to be involved. So thank you, and thank you for this interview. I knew you'd have something to say. It's been
I
an
tried.
absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thanks very much.